What's with that look? People earning $30,000 a year are just poor. Get lost. You have a scary face. The jealousy of poor people is frightening. That's right. Since you're already here at the office, why not apply for welfare, you bottom dweller? At the office I had visited for some errands. I encountered my ex-husband Tommy and his wife Catherine. They both kept ridiculing me. Did they think I'd cry and go home? I'd never give in to them. Without flinching at their abusive words, I opened my mouth to respond to them. Huh? $30,000 is just my monthly income, though? What? Both of them exclaimed in a comically surprised tone at my words. $30,000 a year? Come on, we're not talking about the old Tommy. As I laughed loudly, Tommy turned red and tried to argue back. The two of them kept obsessing over me. I was finally about to give them their comeuppance. My name is Lisa, and I'm 50 years old. I'm a divorcee currently running a cooking school. I married my then-husband Tommy when I was 26. We had a daughter, Emma. We were just an ordinary family that could be found anywhere. Tommy was a company employee working seriously every day. But he was short-tempered and prone to anger. He held male-dominant beliefs and would sometimes make derogatory remarks towards me and Emma. But to put it positively, his strong belief that he, as a man, had to be responsible was stronger than anyone else's. At the beginning of our marriage, I felt a lack of manliness and reliability in Tommy. Yet our family lived modestly but happily. My meeting with Tommy was through a common occurrence. An introduction by a senior colleague at work. Concerned about me, who hadn't mentioned having a boyfriend even after turning 25. My senior thought it was worrying. To be honest, I wasn't very attracted to the idea of marriage. I was more interested in working than getting married. At that time, not many people thought like me. And many believed that quitting their job for marriage was a woman's happiness. Moreover, every time my parents contacted me, they started to press the issue of marriage. Being away from my parents' home due to work. I also wondered if getting married would reassure them. That's when I met Tommy, and somehow I started to consider him as a potential marriage partner. It seems Tommy was having similar doubts at the time. Everyone around me is getting married, and my parents keep nagging about marriage. Honestly, I'm not interested in marriage. But if I were to marry, I'd like it to be with someone like Lisa. One day, Tommy told me that we weren't deeply in love. But I thought we could be good partners for each other since our views on marriage were similar. And so, less than a year after meeting, we decided to get married, but we really had no money. Both Tommy and I had been living alone before our marriage, so we hardly had any savings. As a result, our wedding was really just a small meal with close family members. We couldn't afford a new home. So our married life began with Tommy moving into the apartment where I lived. Because of our situation, I intended to continue working after marriage, as expected. Tommy had agreed to this before our marriage, but once we were married, he started to have difficulties with the idea of me working. This happened a while after we got married. So, when is Lisa going to quit her job? That question came out of the blue. I was taken aback and responded, "What? I'm planning to keep working." That's what we talked about. But if you work, won't people think my earnings are insufficient? Normally, everyone quits their job after getting married, right? Lisa, you should do the same. It was such a turnaround from our discussions before marriage that I wanted to ask what all that was for. Frustrated with Tommy suddenly saying this, I spoke up. Why? It's a fact we're out of money, right? You were okay with me continuing to work. But, you know, my manager and chief think you've already quit. I can't just say I'm making you work. I was dumbfounded. Tommy told his superiors that I had quit for some reason of pride. Today, it's not unusual for both spouses to work. However, back then, it wasn't as easy for women to work as it is now. Influenced by others, Tommy started to find it ridiculous for me to work and began forcing me to resign. He even involved his parents, turning it into a family-wide opposition against me working. You'll have children eventually. And it's pitiful to leave them in daycare to work. Quit your job already. Tommy's telling you the same, right? A woman's best role is to take care of the home. Despite living far away, my mother-in-law irresponsibly threw such words at me. I never agreed to quit my job, but surrounded by opposition, I ended up confined to the house. However, this didn't mean Tommy's salary increased. Our reduced income directly impacted our lives. All I could do was cut down on living expenses. With only Tommy's salary to live on, we had to save rigorously. This is dinner? Just this? Before payday, Tommy would sometimes give a strained smile upon seeing the modest meal. Can't help it. We're out of money for the month. But I'm working. I'm eating for both of us. I have to work for both of us. Sometimes, saying that Tommy would even snatch my side dishes. He also took pocket money from the household expenses, saying it's embarrassing to be out of money in public. I couldn't even consult with anyone about this, feeling too ashamed. Tommy forbade me from borrowing money from my parents, saying it would be shameful to admit we were out of money. Of course, I couldn't spend on my cosmetics or clothes. Even in such a state, Tommy wouldn't let me work, which only added to my stress. As I was considering divorce, Tommy, realizing this, said, "If we have a child, you won't have to think about unnecessary things." Despite our financial difficulties, he suggested having a child. If I got pregnant under these circumstances, it would be a disaster for our finances. Despite my opposition, saying it was too early, I eventually got pregnant, making it difficult to both work and think about divorce. Still, I found our daughter Emma very adorable. Fortunately, without any major illnesses, Emma grew up healthily. With age, Tommy's salary increased a bit. Although still below average, I had gotten used to saving money. As a full-time housewife, I could attend all of Emma's kindergarten and school events. Despite many hardships and sacrifices, we finally achieved a normal life. And I was relieved until one day. Maybe it's time for you to start working again? Staying cooped up at home will age you fast. I was speechless at Tommy's casually muttered words. What do you mean? When we were struggling financially, you said it was shameful for me to work, and now you're telling me to get a job? Tommy bristled at my spontaneous response. What, you don't want to work? Being a full-time housewife is just being lazy. I was stunned at his harsh words. It's not that I didn't want to work. It's just that I couldn't stand Tommy's attitude and words. The wife of the chief who just transferred here works even after getting married and having kids. She's always well-dressed. And you, Lisa, don't you feel pathetic about yourself? What kind of face was he making while saying that? Had he forgotten what he had told me? Although I had so much to say, Emma was nearby, so I desperately held back. All right. I'll find some job. I told Tommy this, barely concealing my frustration. He seemed to smile as if he had one. Then, I started a part-time job nearby. I worked as a cook at a supermarket. At that time, Emma was in the upper grades of elementary school. Even though she was getting older, she was still a primary schooler. She needed close attention, and there were household chores to do. Adding work to that, I struggled to manage everything at first and was exhausted every day. Tommy remained unchanged even seeing my condition. Why are you so tired from just a part-time job? Be like me. He said that arrogantly every day. Working full-time and juggling a job with housework and parenting are entirely different things. I recall not being this tired when I worked full-time and only had to care for myself. It's just part-time, but I have household duties too. Can you help a little? Even just looking over Emma's homework would be a big help. I said this to Tommy, but he didn't try to cooperate. Homework? That's a mother's job. Then, at least help with washing the dishes? You want me to do housework when I'm tired from work? Housework is a woman's job. No matter what I asked, he pushed everything onto me, using the excuse of me being a mother or a woman. I gave up expecting anything from Tommy due to his selfish behavior. Then, one day, after about 3 years since I started working, Emma fell ill. Initially, we didn't know the cause and went to many hospitals. Of course, I took time off from my part-time job during this period, desperately caring for Emma. But even as I struggled for Emma, Tommy's reaction was cool. Isn't she just faking to avoid school? Don't take time off from your part-time job. Your salary will decrease. In front of a visibly ill Emma, Tommy showed no concern, simply drinking beer. Eventually, Emma's illness turned out to be non-life-threatening. But she needed regular hospital visits for some time. Having been frequently absent from my part-time job, and now needing more time off, I couldn't inconvenience them further and ultimately resigned. Tommy became furious and started berating me for quitting. Can't you even keep a part-time job? It was just for 3 years. I feel bad about resigning. But what choice did I have? What choice? You just wanted to go back to the comfortable life of a full-time housewife, didn't you? No matter how much I explained Emma's condition and our situation, Tommy showed no empathy. Instead, he kept pressuring me to work. Feeling depressed by my inability to work and Tommy's verbal abuse, I knew I had to do something. Then one day, Emma said, "Mom, I'm sorry you had to quit your job because of me." I was shocked. I knew Tommy's words reached Emma's ears, but I didn't realize they made her feel this way. Filled with regret and resolve, I knew I had to prove it wasn't Emma's fault. It's not your fault, Emma. But I'm happy you're at home. I want you to stay home all the time, like before. Emma. I pondered my options and then it struck me, working from home. However, my options were limited. After some thought, I decided to start a cooking class at home. I had always been confident in my cooking skills. With experience living alone and working as a supermarket cook, I had a decent repertoire. Plus, my 3 years at the supermarket allowed me to earn a chef's license. Thus, I smoothly started my cooking class. Emma was very happy about the cooking class. However, Tommy only mocked it. You think you can succeed on your own? Who would pay to learn cooking from you? Stop struggling in vain and get a proper job, you shut in. Tommy complained constantly as I prepared for the class. But I didn't give up. I believed that if it went well, even Tommy might change his mind. But it didn't start well. Finding students was not easy. Even those who came for a trial did not always return, playing right into Tommy's expectations. As expected, he continued to ridicule me. Get a proper job already. It was easy for him to say. But considering Emma's medical appointments and unexpected illnesses, it was difficult. Tommy had no intention of accompanying Emma to the hospital, making it hard for me to work outside. Despite my struggles, I continued the cooking class. Eventually, a couple of students began attending regularly. Your cooking is popular with my family. My child doesn't like vegetables, but they ate the dish you taught us. Such wonderful students they were, even bringing friends. And after about a year, the cooking class finally took off. Emma was very happy, but Tommy remained indifferent. I could feel that he still looked down on me, and his words became fewer and fewer. About 5 years later, the cooking class was doing well, though slowly. Emma's illness resolved with growth, and she only needed annual checkups. We were not very wealthy, but we were living happily without any problems. Contrary to that, my relationship with Tommy had grown cold. I could strongly feel his displeasure at my success, and I had nothing more to say to him. I had thought we would be good partners when we married, but things don't always go as planned. Despite everything, we were a couple that had come this far together. I thought we would continue living our lives in this detached way into our old age. Then, one day, Emma, now in high school, came home from school with a troubled look. "What's wrong? Did something happen at school?" When I asked her, Emma spoke with a serious expression. "I saw Dad walking with a woman I don't know." "Your dad? Was she someone from work?" "What's the matter with that?" "No, it wasn't like that. They were arm in arm. They seemed close." When I heard those words, I felt as if the blood had drained from my head. I immediately understood it was an affair, but I wasn't shocked by that. I was hurt that Emma had to witness such a scene. It might be a misunderstanding. "I'll talk to your dad about it." "Yeah, I'm sorry for bringing this up." "No, don't be. Thank you for telling me, even though it was hard. It's not your fault, so don't worry about it." I comforted Emma with a smile, but inside I was seething with anger. That night, sensing the mood, Emma went to her room early. "Is Emma going to sleep already?" "That's early." Tommy said this casually. After a while, I decided to bring up the main topic. "By the way, Emma said she saw you walking with a woman." "Me with a woman?" "It must be a misunderstanding." Tommy answered with a faint smile, but I didn't miss the way his eyes darted around. "I'll forgive you if you tell me the truth," I said, glaring at him. "There's nothing to tell." Tommy hesitated to speak. But seeing my unrelenting glare, he laughed defiantly, as if resigning to his fate. "Well, I'm popular, after all. Maybe something like that did happen. Don't be ridiculous. Do you realize Emma is hurt by this? What are you thinking? What's your problem? Always nagging about money. Turning our house into a cooking class, or whatever. I have no place or comfort in this house. What's wrong with seeking comfort elsewhere?" I was speechless at his words. True, running a class at home may have caused some inconvenience. But Tommy and my students never crossed paths. Even after the classes, he mocked their absence as if he was oblivious to their presence. Let alone feeling uncomfortable due to the class. The financial troubles weren't new, and partly his fault. Yet he used it to justify his affair and hurt Emma. However, the income from the cooking class alone wasn't enough for Emma and me. Knowing I had to endure, Tommy added insult to injury. "If you're unhappy, let's divorce." I continued this marriage feeling sorry for you. But divorcing you and marrying her is for my happiness. Wait. Emma's education costs are coming up. Earn it with your cooking class. Well, let's get a divorce. Saying this, Tommy brought home a divorce application the next day. I was discarded. Not just me, but also Emma, his daughter. I demanded child support and education costs for infidelity. Reluctantly, Tommy agreed, so I consented to the divorce. However, I never received those payments, leading to more struggles with finances. Yet, even as a single mother, I never forgot to smile, supporting and living alongside Emma. Those days were filled with hardship, but the misfortune didn't last forever. A few years after the divorce, Emma, now a working adult, decided to get married. She lives far away due to her job. I visited the municipal office to get a copy of the family register for her marriage registration. That's when I heard a familiar, mocking voice. "Hey, isn't that the teacher?" A voice full of mockery. I looked over and, as expected, it was Tommy. "Are you still running your cooking class?" His words, mixed with politeness, felt even more mocking. I turned away sharply. Then, the woman beside Tommy laughed. "Tommy? That's rude. She's your ex-wife, right?"
Yeah.
Thanks to her agreeing to the divorce, I could marry Catherine. I should be grateful. The woman called Catherine seemed to be the mistress Emma had seen. She showed no remorse for getting involved with a married man. Not only did Tommy not pay the alimony, but there was also no apology. Besides Tommy, Catherine looked down on me, seemingly wealthy. I involuntarily noticed the brand bag in her hand. Realizing this, Tommy laughed even more mockingly. "Catherine's parents own a company. You must be envious of this bag, right? You could never afford it." "I'm not envious at all. Pretending to be strong is pointless." "How much are you earning now?" "About 10,000 a year." It seems Tommy's ego is inflated with Catherine's wealth. 3. I answered briefly. "Oh, 3. Not bad. But with a 30,000 income, you can't afford decent food, can you?" Tommy continued to loudly mock me. I wondered why he was so intent on bothering me. I glared fiercely at Tommy. "What's with that look? People earning 30,000 a year are just poor. Get lost. You have a scary face. The jealousy of poor people is frightening." "That's right. Since you're already here at the office, why not apply for welfare, you bottom dweller?" Catherine joined Tommy in mocking me. They probably thought I'd cry and go home, but I had no intention of giving in to them. Unfazed by their insults, I opened my mouth to respond. "Huh? 30,000 is just my monthly income, though?" "What? 30,000 a year? Come on, we're not talking about the old Tommy." I said it out loud and laughed. Tommy, as expected, turned red and snapped at me. "What? Back then? Back then? You were always around 30,000 until our divorce. Struggled being married to a pretentious poor man." Tommy, clearly not expecting to be talked back to, was shaking comically. "It's good for you now, married to a lady riding on her parents' coattails." "Did you just call me an old lady?" Catherine seemed offended by my words and glared at me. "Yes. You're only a bit younger than me, right? It's ridiculous to rely on your parents just because they own a company at your age. Do you even work?" At my question, Catherine fell silent. Tommy had nothing to say either. It seemed they were living off Catherine's parents' money without working. Realizing this, I couldn't help but laugh. It must be hard for parents to support grown-up men and women. Poor parents, even if they are company presidents. "What did you say?" Tommy, infuriated, almost raised his hand at me, but seemed to realize the consequences of such an action in public and reluctantly lowered it. "Lying old woman, earning 30,000 a month, don't interfere in other people's affairs." "Oh, it's not a lie. Besides, you were the one who started interfering in my affairs, weren't you? How can an old woman like you earn 30,000 a month? Tell me how." With a smile, I began to speak. "Do you cook, Catherine? Cooking? That's what the maid does. Don't compare me with the poor. Our maid makes exquisite truffle burdock rice, and we use vegetables from our company. Catherine laughed triumphantly, but my smile grew wider. I see. What's with that creepy smile? I'm delighted you like the recipes I created. Hearing this, both were taken aback. After my divorce from Tommy, I continued my cooking class. However, it was not enough to sustain a living. I decided to close the class, but my students, refusing to let me quit, brought many new participants. People started recommending others, and 3 months after the divorce, my classes became so popular that it was hard to get a reservation. We want more people to know about your cooking. A student working at a publishing house suggested I publish a cookbook. The first one targeted housewives. Thanks to many sharing it on social media, the book sold incredibly well in this digital age. I also wrote books on toddler-friendly recipes, remembering the snacks I made with Emma in kindergarten, and budget recipes from my harder times. Recently, I published books with slightly more upscale recipes, catering to various culinary genres. Among my recipes, the truffle burdock rice using mushrooms and truffle salt became particularly popular, with various adaptations buzzing on social media. I'm confident Catherine's maid must have seen it and decided to make it. It's not something a regular person would easily think of. You came up with that. Yes, that's right. I'm glad so many people are enjoying it. Catherine was speechless. She might have realized if she had made it herself, but it seems she only bragged about having it made for her. She had no idea I was the creator. Unable to say anything, both she and Tommy fell silent, probably realizing my monthly income of $30,000 wasn't a lie. Well, I'm busy, so I'll be going. Their earlier bravado was gone. I left them deflated as I finished my errands and left the office. However, that evening, another incident occurred. Tommy came to visit my house. I continued living in the same apartment since I kept running the cooking class after the divorce. Regretting not moving, I went to the entrance to meet Tommy. About earlier, sorry. Greeting Tommy at the door, his smirking face gave me a bad feeling. What do you want? Well, you know, I supported and helped with your cooking class, right? We haven't done any property division, and it's late, but I think we should split the money properly. My bad feeling was right. Tommy had come, aiming for my money. What are you talking about? I don't remember you ever supporting me. My only memory of Tommy was of being continuously ridiculed. There was no support from him. And what property division are you talking about? Look, you have money, right? We didn't split it when we divorced, so we should divide it now. I was exasperated by his words. I couldn't understand why he thought he had any right to my money.
Yeah.
Is Emma here? She must be grown up now. She might want to see me, right? Tommy, still in high spirits, tried to peek inside. I blocked him by closing the door. Emma isn't here. She lives far away. She's getting married soon. Upon hearing this, Tommy's eyes lit up. Part of me wondered if he was genuinely happy for Emma, while the other part doubted it. Who's she marrying? Is he rich? Well, he's serious about his work. Good for her. Like father, like daughter, a beauty easily marrying into wealth. Women have the easy way out with marriage. I resisted the urge to slap him. I had been let down by him so many times before. What about the wedding? I should keep my schedule open. Despite everything, Tommy seemed to assume he'd be attending the wedding. I don't know about that, but if you want to meet Emma's future husband, they're coming over this weekend. You can come and greet them then. Tommy nodded happily at my suggestion. He and Catherine were already planning to visit to pick up the family register and have a meal. After saying he'd come again, Tommy left. I sighed as I watched him go. On the weekend, Tommy unexpectedly arrived with Catherine. Catherine, a complete outsider, was brought in without a clear purpose. Emma and her fiancé, Alex, already present, frowned upon seeing them. Why is Dad here? And with this woman? Isn't it terrible to say that when we're meeting after so long? You're getting married, right? Tommy greeted Emma cheerfully, but she looked at me, wanting to say something. I smiled slyly and introduced them to Alex. Alex, this is Emma's father, my ex-husband Tommy, and his current wife, Catherine. Nice to meet you. Emma had already told Alex about her father and my divorce. Alex didn't seem to think highly of them. While Alex greeted them awkwardly, I continued. You know, we didn't divide our assets during the divorce. I haven't received any child support either. Well, let's not talk about that today. No, it's perfect. Alex is a lawyer. With Catherine here, I wanted to discuss things properly. Catherine's eyes widened at this, and she looked at Tommy for help. Emma smirked, realizing the real reason I invited Tommy. Child support. I've heard about the situation. Based on the cases I've handled, in your mother-in-law's case, you could easily get 10,000. 10,000. Catherine raised her voice in panic. Naturally, being wealthy but not working herself, she'd probably have to ask her parents for the money. Tommy, frustrated, interjected. Just deduct it from the property division and give it to me. I couldn't help but laugh at Tommy's continued absurdity. Alex, puzzled, clarified. Property division? I heard you didn't have any money at the time of the divorce. I didn't have it then, but she does now. Property division is about the assets formed during the marriage. Alex patiently explained to Tommy. At the time of divorce, there was only about 3,000 in savings. So, by simple calculation, you owe her 1,500. What? I felt a bit relieved as things didn't go as Tommy expected. He had taken all the savings when we divorced. Alex, I'd like you to handle the payment. Can you take care of it? I formally asked Alex in front of them. Tommy and Catherine looked at each other, turning pale. Later, a formal demand was made, but unsurprisingly, there was no payment. I didn't want to burden Alex or Emma anymore, so I decided to take the final step. I think it's time to terminate the contract. I notified the fruit and vegetable company I had been collaborating with that I intended to terminate our contract. This company has been supplying all the vegetables for my published recipes since the release of my books. The meal kits, which included vegetables used in my recipes, were also selling well. This contract constituted a significant portion of the company's revenue, benefiting both of us. I decided to end the contract because of Tommy and Catherine. Predictably, the company's president and vice president came to see me immediately. Was there any mistake on our part? Your meal kits are still very popular, and we expect continued sales. Terminating the contract now would be. Both the president and the vice president looked troubled, as they pleaded for the continuation of our contract. I'm grateful for your help and appreciate your company, but I no longer wish to be involved. I firmly stated my position, and they nervously sought a reason. I then revealed the truth to them. Specifically, I no longer wish to be involved with your daughter, Catherine, the vice president's sister. Yes, the company I had a contract with was Catherine's family business, and she was the wife of Tommy. Initially, I had no idea about this connection. However, clues like Catherine mentioning vegetables from our company and being the president's daughter made me suspect. There aren't many fruit and vegetable companies in the area. Checking the contract, I found Catherine's name in the company's records. Catherine didn't work, and it was clear she was just a nominal officer. I knew the vice president had a sister and realized the family connection. I struggled with how to reconcile this fact. But Tommy and Catherine continued to be insincere towards me. I decided it was unfair for me to keep up my end of the deal. I explained the situation to the president and vice president. I can't believe it. Catherine's husband is Ms. Lisa? She did such an outrageous thing. The president and vice president were profusely apologetic, their faces pale. I'm sorry. We'll remove Catherine from the board of directors. And, Dad, you need to take responsibility for spoiling Catherine. Indeed. Ms. Lisa, I'm deeply sorry for what my daughter has done. Consequently, the president resigned. Catherine's name was removed from the board, and her financial support was cut off. That Lisa running the cooking class here is a terrible old woman. Catherine ranted outside my apartment for days, which led to the entire incident being exposed online. The fruit and vegetable company faced a crisis, but I re-established my contract. Impressed by the vice president's character and response. He kept apologizing, but thanks to him, I finally received the child support. Tommy and Catherine's fate needs no explanation. They, not working, faced a life of poverty, abandoned by their family, and living in a cramped apartment. I learned of this from Emma, who contacted me. Dad asked me for money. Of course, I refused. Unable to rely on anyone, it was pitiful that he resorted to begging his daughter for money. He's working at a day laborer's factory now. He should have stayed at his company. He got carried away, thinking he became rich by marrying her. Emma laughed heartily, and I was finally able to laugh too. Tommy had always caused me anger, but now I felt he had received his just desserts. I know the hardships of living without money. Now, I hope Tommy experiences that hardship himself. My work continued to thrive. I even started posting recipe videos on a video sharing website, thanks to Emma's suggestion. Bringing happiness to people with my cooking is my greatest joy. Emma is expecting a baby soon. I'm thinking of creating a recipe book for delicious baby food. I am Emma Manning, a 35-year-old office worker. My family consists of my husband David, who is 3 years my senior and works for a major corporation, and our daughter Kate, who turns 5 this year. Once before, my husband was, if anything, very fond of children and actively participated in parenting, being a good father. When I was busy with work, he would kindly take care of the housework for me. However, recently, it seems like David has lost his kindness, possibly due to stress from work. His return time has become later at night, and his mood has been very bad. Hey, what's with this way of folding the laundry? There are wrinkles at the edges, and they stand out when worn. Can't you do it a bit more carefully? I'm sorry, I'll refold them now, so just leave them there. Really, can't you handle even such simple household chores? Your parents didn't teach you anything, did they? I should have married someone who can do housework properly. You don't have to say that. I'm trying my best despite being busy with work, you know? Ultimately, if it's not done properly, it's meaningless. Take housework more seriously, you're such a sloppy woman. I'm sorry. He never used to nitpick like this. In fact, he was kind enough to do the housework for me when I was tired. But now, he doesn't show any sign of helping with household chores at all. Lately, he has started to complain about everything I do. It feels like he's venting the stress he accumulates at work on me. I'm just as busy and tired from work as he is. Moreover, his anger is directed not only at me but also at our daughter. Hey, Kate, I told you to clean up your toys before I get back, didn't I? You can't even do such a simple thing. You're just like your mother, a failure. Wah, Daddy's bullying me. Hey. You don't have to say that to Kate. It's not right to take your frustrations out on your family just because you're busy at work. It's not taking it out on you, I'm just telling you to do what you're supposed to do. You're a mother, so you should be able to take care of your child properly. The atmosphere at home has been heavy due to David venting his stress on the family day after day. Even on his days off, he would just lie on the sofa all day, playing with his smartphone. My daughter, who used to love her father, now seems to dislike him. Saying, "I don't want to be with Daddy." He's always angry. The thoughtless words repeated day after day have left her quite depressed. If this situation continues, it could negatively affect our daughter. And worst case scenario, divorce might become an option. Then one day, I was surprised by what I saw. Welcome back, you're early today. Huh? What are you doing? What do you mean? I'm making dinner. Dinner? It was surprising because David, who had left all household chores to me for the past 6 months, was suddenly cooking dinner upon returning home. I wondered if I was dreaming and mistaking it for reality. For a moment, I even considered such a trivial thought, unable to hide my surprise at his actions. And it wasn't just me, our daughter felt the same way. Daddy, what's up today? Aren't you working? I was working. But I managed to come home early today. I've been leaving all the housework to your mommy lately. So I thought it might be nice to help out once in a while. Oh, is that so? It's rare for Daddy to do household chores. Right? I'm making dinner now, so look forward to it. Saying so, David continued to cook while humming. Despite recently complaining about my way of doing housework. Was this an attempt to appease me? I couldn't accept his actions straightforwardly. What's gotten into you? You were just complaining about my way of doing housework. Well, I realized that I've been leaving almost everything to you. Not just work, but also household chores. I thought I should be more grateful and help out for a bit. Hearing the word grateful from David, I became even more worried, wondering if something had happened. Moreover, David proposed that he would start making dinner since he would be working from home for a while. Feeling it was too much to ask, I initially refused, but he insisted. No, I think men should also be able to cook nowadays. It's good to be able to help out with household chores when the wife is not feeling well. So, I'll take care of dinner for a while. Well, if you insist that much, I guess you can. Since we got married, David had hardly ever cooked. Once, when I was sick, he made porridge, but he burned the bottom of the pot. And the porridge ended up slightly burnt. Given such experiences, I honestly wasn't sure if it was a good idea to let him cook. However, David seemed different today. He was surprisingly adept. And the delicious smell of garlic and sauce was wafting from the kitchen. Wow, something smells good. I wonder what it is. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, me too. Both my daughter and I were eagerly awaiting David's cooking. 15 minutes later, he served the finished dish. Here you go, it's ready. What David brought to the table was a very appetizing chicken steak. It looked perfectly cooked without any burnt parts, and the chicken had a juicy appearance. It was hard to believe this was the same person who once burned the porridge, as even the presentation was beautiful. Wow, meat. It looks really delicious, Mommy. Yes, let's eat it before it gets cold. Bon appetit. Taking a bite, I was amazed at how delicious it was. Wow, this is delicious. Did you really make this?
Yeah.
I worked hard looking at recipes to make it. It was quite a challenge to prepare. It's delicious. Daddy, you're like a genius at cooking. Right. Maybe I should quit my job and become a chef, just kidding. I was truly surprised to see how much David's cooking skills had improved. Even our daughter Kate, who is usually picky about her food, devoured the vegetables she normally wouldn't touch at dinner that day. Daddy, it was so good. Make it again tomorrow. Sure thing. From now on, I'll make dinner every day.
Yay!
I can eat Daddy's delicious meals again. I'm going to brag about it to everyone tomorrow. David seemed pleased to be complimented by our daughter. And he even said he would take care of the cleanup that day, which was a huge relief for me. After dinner, as I was about to take a bath, David suddenly said, "Oh, wait a minute. Is there something else?" David stood up and headed towards the kitchen. What he took out from the refrigerator was pudding. Pudding is my favorite, and seeing it made me instantly excited. Actually, I've been really into making pudding lately. I want to make that old-fashioned firm pudding. But it's harder than I thought. Emma, would you mind being my taste tester for a while? Sure. I love pudding. I could eat it every day. I don't want pudding. I'd like yogurt. No worries, Kate. I made some fruit yogurt for you.
Yay!
Thank you. So, I'll be serving pudding for a while then. Oh, and I made coffee, too. Please enjoy. At that moment, I was thrilled about the prospect of eating my favorite pudding every day. Little did I know, this seemingly innocuous pudding would trigger a shocking series of events. The first sign of trouble came 3 days after David began cooking. I felt dizzy and nauseous from the morning. I've always been quite healthy and seldom caught a cold, so this was alarming. Seeing my condition, David came over, concerned. What's wrong? You look pale. Maybe you should take a day off work?
Yeah.
I feel a bit unwell. But I can't afford to take a day off with my workload. I see, that's tough. Oh, here, someone from work shared this health tea with me. I'll give some to you, Emma. It's refreshing and tastes good. He handed me the tea. Thank you, I'll be on my way then. Mommy, you look sick. Don't push yourself too hard.
Yeah.
I'm heading out now. I took the tea from David and left for work as usual. On my way to work, I took a sip of the tea, but perhaps due to its unique health tea flavor, it didn't suit my taste, and I couldn't finish it. And even after several days, the dizziness and nausea didn't subside. I undergo regular health checkups, and there's never been anything wrong. Something wasn't right, so after a week of suffering, I took a day off work and went for a thorough medical examination, thinking it might be a serious illness. What if they find something? I have a young daughter to worry about. Thoughts like this flashed through my mind as I waited anxiously in the waiting room for my turn to be called. An hour later, my name was finally called, and I went to the doctor's office to hear the results. However, the doctor told me that there was no serious illness, just no abnormalities found. Really? Are you sure there's nothing wrong? It's been a week since I started feeling unwell. No matter how many times I asked, the doctor only said there were no abnormalities. Just to be safe, I was prescribed some anti-nausea medication. And the consultation ended rather abruptly. After returning home, I immediately took the prescribed medicine and went to bed early to rest. I thought surely the medicine would improve my condition in a few days. But no matter how much I rested or took the medicine, my symptoms did not improve. And my condition weakened to the point where I could barely work. Emma, do you mind talking with me a little? During work, my boss suddenly called me out. I went straight to the reception room. Once seated, the topic of conversation was indeed about my health. You've been unwell a lot lately, haven't you? Continuing to work like this will only make things worse. Have you considered taking a leave of absence to recover? Hearing this from my boss made me realize that this situation was indeed serious. As a working adult, I believe that managing one's health is part of the job. However, no matter what I did, my condition did not improve. And I feared I might have a serious hidden illness. Under those circumstances, it was not the time to be working. After discussing it thoroughly with my boss, I decided to resign at the end of the month. Despite having worked hard at this company for 13 years since graduating from college, it felt as if a hole had opened up in my heart. When I got home and sat down on the sofa to tell my husband that I had decided to resign, he simply said, "Oh, is that so?" and went back to cooking dinner. My wife has broken down and resigned, and that's all he has to say? I was expecting some words of concern, but instead, I felt a lingering sense of dissatisfaction. As we ate the steak for dinner, he served me pudding again. What's this? Didn't I tell you? I'm really into making pudding now. The quality today is better than last time, so could you please just try it? But I'm not really in the mood to eat right now. What? You mean to say you won't eat something I've worked so hard on? That's the worst. Daddy, you don't have to say it like that. Okay, I'll eat it. Don't be so mad. Even though I wasn't in the mood, eating the pudding seemed less troublesome than angering my husband. Due to my poor health, it didn't taste very good to me. After resigning, my health did not improve. I spent my days lying down as much as possible, but nothing changed. Despite numerous hospital visits and medications, there was no sign of improvement. I could stand for even shorter periods than before and could hardly do any housework. Eventually, I suffered severe headaches and nausea and had to call emergency services by myself. I was taken to the hospital by ambulance, where the doctors conducted an examination. When I informed them of my ongoing unexplained health issues, I was admitted for further testing. Upon telling my husband about the hospital admission, he said, "Okay. Don't worry about things here. I'll take care of Kate. I hope your health improves. Mommy, are you okay? Don't worry about home. Daddy and I will take care of everything, so just get better and come back soon." Before the admission, both tried not to worry me, assuring me that they'd manage everything at home. Fortunately, my husband had switched to working from home a month prior and was always at the house. He took care of all the chores and the kid, for which I was grateful. Being in the hospital without having to do housework or worry about my husband felt like heaven. Although I was worried about my daughter, receiving photos of her from my husband via messenger reassured me, allowing me to focus on my recovery. Thanks to that, I was able to leave the hospital a week later. My condition had improved significantly, and I could walk on my own again. When I finally returned home, my daughter greeted me with a happy face. "Mommy, welcome back. Are you feeling better now?" "I'm home, Kate." "Yes, I'm much better now. I've even started eating properly at the hospital." Hearing that, my daughter's face lit up even more with happiness. Seeing my family's faces for the first time in a while nearly brought tears to my eyes. "Oh, you're back." Noticing my return, my husband peeked out from the kitchen. "Yes, I'm back." "Huh?" As soon as she heard my husband's voice, my daughter's face, which had been smiling moments before, suddenly changed. She looked frightened and was even trembling. "What's wrong, Kate? Did something happen?"
Yeah.
Actually, as my daughter was about to speak up, David peeked in and said, About Kate, she's been like this for the past 3 days. Did I do something to scare her? She won't tell me anything." "I see. Kate, if something's wrong, you can tell Mom, okay? Okay. Her response was subdued, lacking energy. Perhaps she had an argument with David while I was hospitalized? That's what I thought at the time. I decided to ask her for the reason when we took a bath together later. For now, I headed to my room to put away the luggage I was holding. Hey, it's ready? Today's a special menu. My very own hamburgers. Wow, it smells great. To think I can eat something this delicious now, being hospitalized really did me good. Come on, Kate, join us. Okay. I felt a sense of unease with every action and word from my daughter. Thinking it might be better to talk to her privately first. I was about to take her to my room when David said, "Hey, what are you two doing?" I went to all the trouble of making dinner. And it'll get cold if you don't eat it now. Faced with David's increasingly sour mood, Kate and I decided against going to the room. We sat down to start our meal together. Mommy, don't eat it. Huh? My daughter told me not to eat the hamburger. But by that time, I had already taken a bite. What's the matter, Kate? Is there something wrong with my hamburgers? No, it's nothing. Though I was concerned about Kate's behavior. Knowing that not eating would only worsen David's mood, I continued eating. The hamburger tasted a bit too spicy for my liking, with a unique flavor that wasn't exactly delicious. But since he went through the trouble of making it, I couldn't say it wasn't good. The sauce was tasty, so I managed to finish my meal by focusing on that. After dinner, I decided to make coffee for David, who was relaxing on the sofa. Since I couldn't cook during my hospital stay, I thought I'd at least make coffee for him. Dad likes his coffee sweet, with lots of milk and sugar. Where's the milk again? Kate, would you like your usual cocoa? I made coffee for you. And let's eat the pudding you made too. Oh. You're so thoughtful. I was just in the mood for some. Kate, I made your favorite cocoa. And instead of pudding, I bought you a strawberry cake. What? Cocoa and cake?
Yay!
Thank you. Kate happily took her seat and began eating the strawberry shortcake. Her expression brightened significantly compared to before. I decided not to probe further, thinking it wasn't anything serious. After finishing the pudding, I stood up to wash the empty dishes and mugs. While doing the dishes in the kitchen, I suddenly felt nauseous and dizzy again. Struggling to stand. This is strange. I was feeling better while hospitalized. Why am I feeling sick again? It was frustrating and almost brought me to tears to feel unwell again after finally getting better. As I sat down feeling unwell, Kate came over with a concerned look. Mommy, what's wrong? Your face is pale again.
Yeah.
I might have overdone it a bit. I think I'll be okay after a rest. Actually, Daddy put something in your pudding. Put something? What do you mean? Just as I was about to ask her more, a loud noise came from the bathroom. What was that noise now? It came from the bathroom. We rushed to the bathroom, where we found David collapsed on the floor. Hey, are you okay? Answer me. Shaking him and shouting in his ear yielded no response. He had completely lost consciousness. Just as I was about to call for an ambulance, Kate uttered something unbelievable with a chilling tone. Mommy, there's no need to call an ambulance. Her cold voice and expression left me shaken. What are you talking about, Kate? Daddy has collapsed. We need to get a doctor to see him right away. It must be because God is angry. Because he poisoned your food. Poison. What are you talking about, Kate? This is no time for jokes. It's not a joke. I discovered Daddy's secret. Then, Kate began to tell a terrifying story that happened while I was hospitalized. This happened when Kate came back from playing outside, intending to wash her hands and eat some ice cream. Upon entering the house, she heard a woman's voice. Trying not to be noticed by David, Kate quietly approached the room. It seemed like she overheard a suspicious plan between the woman and her father, leaving her frozen in fear for a while. After hearing this story, Kate hasn't been able to look her father in the eye since then. Despite this, I found it hard to believe everything my daughter told me. Despite my initial disbelief, Kate urged me to check the messages on David's phone. Hastily, I reviewed the chat history. What is this? The history revealed frequent exchanges with a woman named Judy, filled with heart emojis and discussions about the dreadful plan Kate mentioned. Moreover, the powder I thought was milk for the coffee appeared to be laced with drugs. When searching the internet, I discovered that the drug is not approved by the US's Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, likely imported personally by a woman. The drug's effects, if taken within the normal dosage, were supposed to alleviate symptoms of a cold, among other things. However, long-term use or incorrect dosages could cause severe side effects like dizziness and nausea. It seems this drug was added to the pudding. The recipe for the pudding, including when to add the drug, was detailed in their messages. Looking further back, there were instructions to mix it into the hamburgers I first ate, and the pudding I consumed with every meal. So, it was this drug that caused my health issues. I was the only one being fed the pudding. Kate disliked pudding and ate yogurt instead, and David, despite preparing it, always had me eat it. He had made the pudding solely for me to eat from the beginning. Going even further back, there were instructions to mix the drug into the tea given to me as a health tea. That's why the tea had a peculiar taste. Learning about their plan was terrifying. This Judy was having an affair with David, and since I became an inconvenience, they used this drug on me. The thought alone was horrifying. Nonetheless, I couldn't just leave David collapsed. Convincing Kate, I decided to call an ambulance. I informed the medical team about the drug he likely ingested. I took screenshots of their message exchange as evidence, and obtained Judy's account information. Kate, thank you. You tried to save me. I'm sorry for scaring you. Mommy, are you okay now? Yes, I'm fine now. It's all thanks to you, Kate. I'll handle everything from here, so please stay at Grandma's house for a while. Okay, I understand. I called my mother to explain the situation. Initially, she couldn't believe it and joked that I was watching too many crime dramas. But after seeing the smartphone exchanges and hearing Kate's story, she turned pale. Who would have thought my daughter's husband could do such a thing? Accompanied by my mother, I went to the hospital and explained everything to the doctor, who then reported it to the police. I handed over the screenshots of the message and the can containing the white powder to the police officer who came to the hospital. The officer immediately went to the hospital where David was admitted and questioned him. David was pale, not expecting his actions and the drugs to be discovered. Why, how did this get out? Did Judy spill it? Confronted with the evidence, David was severely shaken. With proof in hand, he had no choice but to confess everything. Later, David was arrested. Judy, his accomplice, was also arrested on charges of conspiracy. The investigation revealed their plan was to make me agree to a divorce while under the influence of the drug, intending to have me consent to no compensation or child support. Indeed, if I were disoriented, I might unknowingly agree to anything. They even planned to record it on video as proof, preventing me from claiming compensation later. Most of this meticulous plan was proposed by Judy. The biggest hassle is compensation. There's no need to pay that woman and her daughter. So, let's weaken her gradually with this drug. Right. If she's weakened, she won't have the energy to argue. You've come up with an incredible plan. Both the woman who devised the plan and the husband who went along with it were beyond redemption. Through a lawyer, I handed David a divorce application. Later, my in-laws came to my house to apologize on their son's behalf, kneeling down. Despite their kindness and the love they showed for Kate, this incident was too grievous to overlook. I informed them that Kate would no longer see them, especially my mother-in-law, who was deeply shocked and tried to persuade me otherwise, but I couldn't accept it. It's truly regrettable that it came to this. Please, take care. With that, I saw off my in-laws as they left. We then sold our previous house and moved back to my parents' home. Upon informing my former boss that my health had improved, he sent a message asking if I would consider returning to work. Grateful for the opportunity to earn a living, I gladly accepted to resume work. I was concerned that this ordeal had left Kate deeply scarred. However, living with my parents, she seemed cheerful and enjoyed their company. Sharing a bath, Kate said, "Mommy, it's really good we came here. Living with Grandma and Grandpa is so much fun. It's good we're away from Daddy." After everything, divorcing David and moving back home was indeed the right decision. Following the incident, David was disowned by his parents. With Judy incarcerated elsewhere, they lost contact. According to my lawyer, Judy was furious that their plan had been exposed and vowed never to associate with David again. Abandoned by his family, parents, and lover, and stripped of his savings due to compensation payments, David was left with nothing. Realizing the gravity of his actions, he now spends his days in prison filled with regret. Meanwhile, Kate has grown well and recently graduated from kindergarten. With a new backpack from my parents, she happily heads to elementary school every day. Moving forward, my parents and I will continue to watch over her growth. Huh? It seems like we're missing a seat. There was only one empty seat at the table in the private room of the restaurant. Today was my niece's second birthday. We're having a birthday party for the whole family. My sister-in-law had invited me. The table was already occupied by my parents-in-law, my sister-in-law and her husband. And of course, the guest of honor, my niece. But there was only one empty seat. We only prepared seats and meals for the family. If you really want to join, you should bring your own lunch, of course. But there's no place to sit. Though, but, you said we should come together. Yes, I wanted to make it clear in front of everyone. I don't want to see the face of someone who's destroying our family anymore. Greg, you should divorce her as soon as possible. I couldn't hide my surprise. I never expected her to blatantly say, "Get a divorce." And to use the child's birthday party to involve the whole family. The supposed star of the day, my niece, looked on with a worried expression amidst the adults' commotion. This was supposed to be a happy occasion. Let's go home.
Yeah.
We decided to leave quietly after handing over the present, not wanting to cause any more distress for my niece. Then my sister-in-law laughed and spoke to her husband. "Hey, Greg. You should celebrate with us. You're not a child, after all. Rachel will go home by herself." Did she really think my husband would never oppose her? He glanced at my sister-in-law and started walking away, silently putting his arm around my shoulder. However, just after this, another person would get up from their seat, and a tragedy would soon befall my sister-in-law and her husband. My name is Rachel Cohen. I'm 30 years old. I work as a freelance graphic designer. My husband, Greg, was a classmate from vocational school. After graduation, he worked as a designer at an advertising company. And I got a job at a company that makes graphics for games. We started dating after graduation when I began to share my work troubles with him. To me, my husband is a colleague in the creative field, a confidant, and a reliable partner. I decided to go freelance when we got married because I was anxious about continuing my busy job while managing household chores. With just the two of us, my income should be enough. Why don't you take the plunge and try? Really? Then I'll give it a shot, and if it's too hard, I'll look for another job right away. You'll be fine, Rachel. You were always the best in our class at vocational school. His praise was the final push I needed. But still, the first year was really tough. Managing schedules and dealing with administrative work I had never done before often left me on the verge of panic. But my husband was always there to support me. By the second year, I had finally figured out my own way of working. And work started to go smoothly. I felt blessed to have such a supportive husband and a successful career. However, not everything in my married life was smooth sailing. The problem was my in-laws. From the first time I met the mother-in-law and pregnant sister-in-law, I felt disliked. They clearly did not welcome me at the front door. What? Greg, you're marrying her? Can she even have kids? My sister-in-law and mother-in-law would frown whenever they saw me standing next to Greg, who is 5.9 feet. My height of 5 feet probably made me look even smaller. But it was rude to say so at our first meeting. Mom. That's rude. My husband got angry on my behalf, so all I could do was give a wry smile. But what my sister-in-law Allison said was even worse. Is this girl the root of all evil? You've been acting all high and mighty lately because of her influence, right? Really annoying. I was disheartened to hear such things right upon arriving. It was clear that the lack of confidence my husband had was influenced by these two. Even though his work was excellent since his student days, he could not accept compliments and often spoke poorly of himself. When we entered the house, there were the father-in-law and my sister-in-law's husband, Justin, waiting in the living room. It's great to see you. Greg has always been well taken care of by you. We're truly delighted to have such a lovely woman join our family as a bride. I finally felt at ease and welcomed with a smile. Nice to meet you, I'm Justin Walters. I'll be Greg's brother-in-law. We're expecting a child soon, so we hope to have a close-knit family relationship. Justin was so kind, it made me wonder why he married Allison. He seemed a bit like my husband. Hey, Mom. Why haven't you served coffee yet? Oh, my. I got so carried away with happiness. Please, Rachel, have a seat here. In front of the father-in-law, their previously cold demeanor turned warm. His craftsman-like nature gave him an authoritative presence in the family, making it difficult for the mother-in-law and Allison to oppose him. He was still actively working in his own business at over 60 years old. Because of my father-in-law, I continued to engage with my husband's family. Otherwise, I might have cut ties with the mother-in-law and Allison long ago. After we started talking about marriage, my husband shared stories about his family. The father-in-law ran his own business, and the mother-in-law was a homemaker. Initially, they both worked, but the mother-in-law couldn't grasp the clerical work. So he left the household duties entirely to her. Allison was always the smart one, which made Mom cling to her from the start. The mother-in-law must have felt lonely being at home by herself, becoming overly dependent on Allison, who was indeed a beauty but with a difficult personality. I wasn't neglected or abused, but growing up being compared to her, I ended up with a lot of complexes. He chuckled, but there was a hint of sadness. Huh? What about your father? Dad was mostly away for work. Allison was 5 years older. So I couldn't stand up to her, and Mom always took her side. That dynamic still seems to persist at home. It seemed the family home wasn't a pleasant place for my husband. With the father-in-law absent, Allison held the power. And my husband couldn't say no to her even as an adult. It wouldn't have been strange to say he was being brainwashed. That's wrong. Greg is talented and recognized for his work. You're an adult now, it's okay to say no if you dislike something. Hearing about my husband's past filled me with anger every time. Whenever he put himself down, I'd reassure him. Greg, you're doing great. I really admire you. Whether it made a difference or not, his behavior gradually changed. Yet, we tried to keep our distance from his family, but Allison, wanting to manipulate him, never ceased to contact us. After getting married, my husband's financial generosity tightened. But I knew Allison still managed to wheedle money out of him. Not that my husband could fully refuse Allison's demands yet. The year we married, Allison and her husband welcomed a baby. Close to her due date, she called my husband. Hey, Greg. For the baby shower, can you buy us a car seat and a stroller? I'll send you the product images later, thanks. She naturally asked for expensive, branded items. Shocked by the prices, we decided to gift a decent present plus $1,000 in cash instead. What? Didn't you see the pictures I sent? This isn't nearly enough. You can get good quality strollers and car seats for $1,000. If you want something more expensive, you should cover the difference yourself. Huh? I asked Greg for it. What do you mean by only giving $1,000 for your only sister's baby shower gift? Later, after checking the gift, Allison summoned us. She probably expected my husband to comply as usual. Sorry, sis. I'm not alone anymore. Instead of blaming my husband, Allison glared at me. Ever since he started dating me, he wasn't as easily swayed by her. Hence, she labeled me the root of all evil during our introduction. The niece was absolutely adorable. Besides cash gifts for her baptism, we also sent cute clothes and plush toys. Of course, that didn't satisfy Allison. When our work started going well, we moved into a slightly larger apartment. Until then, we lived in the apartment I had rented as a single. After moving, Allison and the mother-in-law showed up unannounced on a weekday. Perhaps, since my husband wasn't easily manipulated anymore, they shifted their target to harassing me. Why did you two get a 3-room for just yourselves? Isn't that a bit extravagant? Rachel, you're not making unreasonable demands of Greg, are you? He's too kind. I wanted to retort that Allison was the one taking advantage of his kindness, but kept silent. Greg also mentioned wanting to go independent eventually. So we wanted a place where we could each have a workspace. Even so, they exchanged cold glances. Their scrutinizing of our home made me uncomfortable. But I refrained from voicing my displeasure. Are you keeping the house clean, Rachel? It seems a bit dusty. Greg comes home tired from work. If you're home, you should keep the house in order. Oh, I'll keep that in my mind, though I do try to clean in between work. Oh, you're some kind of designer, right? I saw your computer screen. And it just looked like you were playing around. Can you even make pocket money with that? They couldn't grasp what my job entailed, seeing it merely as a way to earn some extra cash like a housewife's allowance. Indeed, from their perspective, my work on the computer might seem like mere play. Well, yes, I do manage to earn a bit more than just pocket money. Really? Then you should treat us sometime. Taking care of your husband's family is also a wife's duty, you know. Yes, please get along with Allison, dear. I couldn't help but give a wry smile. Why should earning a little mean I have to treat my sister-in-law? Their presence meant I couldn't work, just adding to my exhaustion. Later, I had my husband agree to stop their unannounced visits. But Allison's invitations were relentless, forcing us to host them several times a month. I never thought I'd see the day I'd understand my husband's inability to refuse them. Reflecting on it, Allison probably disliked that we, a childless couple, lived in a spacious apartment. Rachel, you know, we've decided to buy an apartment. A year after we moved, conspicuously, Allison and her husband purchased a condominium larger than ours. It must have been an expensive property because Allison started working part-time at a supermarket checkout, leaving her daughter with the grandmother. Thankfully, this meant fewer visits to our place, bringing peace to our home. The request from the father-in-law came a little after we moved. Since getting married, we had developed a good relationship, often discussing business since he ran his own. Greg, Rachel, I'm sorry to ask, but could you lend us some money? It was the first time the father-in-law had asked for such a favor. After hearing him out, we agreed to send a fixed amount monthly for a limited time. Greg insisted on handling it himself, but his income alone wasn't enough. Then, I'll contribute that portion. Greg, you're the breadwinner, so make sure our household stays stable. Greg looked surprised, then agreed, slightly blushing as he rubbed his nose. But, father, please understand that if my job goes away, we can't continue the support. I understand. I'm truly sorry. Thank you. Seeing the father-in-law repeatedly thanking us made me feel like I was finally able to contribute to my husband's family. 2 years later, we discovered I was pregnant. Maybe it's time we had a child, we'd been saying, so Greg cried with joy at the positive test. Rachel, thank you. I promise to be the best dad. Really? Even over your sister? No. I won't give any more financial support to my sister. That's a promise. Laughing at Greg holding up the pregnancy test, we hugged and cried together. It was a declaration of independence from being dominated by his sister. Discussing when to tell his family about the pregnancy, we got a call from Allison. Next week, we're celebrating my child's birthday at a restaurant. Come join us, both of you. She's turning 2 already? We'll definitely be there. Greg, now expecting his own child, seemed to cherish his niece even more. On the day of the birthday party, arriving at the designated restaurant, we were led to a private room where Allison, her husband, Justin Walters, and the grandparents were already seated. Sorry we're late. Happy birthday, niece. Huh? Seems like there's one seat short? There was clearly only one seat available. And the table settings were prepared for one less than the number of guests. Yes, we didn't prepare a seat for Rachel. We can't associate with someone who upsets my wife. What is he talking about? Facing my confusion, Justin continued. What right do you have to try and divide my wife and Greg? Since you married, it's been harder to contact Greg, my wife tells me. I began to understand Allison's motive. She had likely been feeding Justin a skewed narrative to create a situation favorable to her. Allison smirked triumphantly when our eyes met. We only prepared seats and meals for the family. If you really want to join, you might as well bring your own lunch. There's nowhere to sit, though. But, we were invited to come together. And yes, I wanted to say this in front of everyone. I don't want to see the face of someone who's destroying our family. Greg, you should divorce her soon. I couldn't hide my surprise. I thought she wanted to separate me and my husband. But I never imagined she would outright say, get a divorce. Greg, it seems you've been under Rachel's thumb, haven't you? Working hard and yet you have no freedom with money. Since finding out about my pregnancy, Greg had started to firmly refuse Allison's demands for money. It's clear she had labeled me a complete nuisance. But to use a child's birthday party to involve the entire family. Greg, silent next to me, pulled me closer in a protective gesture. The niece, today's supposed star, looked on uneasily at the adults' exchange. Despite the supposed celebration, I felt a surge of anger and sadness, nearly bringing me to tears. Let's go home.
Yeah.
As we decided to leave quietly without causing further distress to the niece. Handing over only our gift, Allison called out to Greg with a laugh. Hey, Greg. You celebrate with us. You're not a child, Rachel can go home alone. She must think her brother would never defy her. Greg, after giving Allison a glance, started walking away with me, arm around my shoulder. Then, we heard the sound of a chair moving. I'll be leaving too. As he stood up, he patted the niece's head as if to say sorry. Allison seemed taken aback by her father's unexpected action. What? Dad, what's wrong? I explained about Rachel before you two arrived. She's a plague, you know. The father-in-law sighed deeply, disappointed. If you seriously believe that, you're truly foolish. The money your mother sends you comes from Rachel's assistance. What? What are you talking about? That can't be right. Today is about celebrating the granddaughter's birthday. It's ridiculous for you to leave. She desperately grabbed his arm. Father, what do you mean by Allison receiving money? Justin interjected, seeking clarification from the father-in-law. Despite working part-time 5 days a week. You claimed life was tough after buying the condo. I want to know what's going on. What? Allison said that? Why would she do something like that? Justin looked perplexed at Allison, who suddenly became silent, realizing something was amiss. Father-in-law, looking down at the mother-in-law gripping his arm, spoke with a fit of quiet anger. You'll need to stay with Allison for a while. We'll gather again later for a detailed discussion. Sorry, but please celebrate the granddaughter's birthday without me today. After leaving money on the table, the father-in-law quickly exited, with us following behind. Outside, he turned to us. I'm sorry about Allison. I wanted to understand her motives by staying quiet. I never expected her to demand a divorce. Dad, Rachel, I'm sorry. If I had been stronger. I gently patted Greg's back, reassuring him it wasn't his fault. Then, the three of us went to eat, sharing with the father-in-law about the relationship with Allison and everything that had happened. Greg, I'm sorry. As a father, I failed to notice. I was too absorbed in work and neglected parenting. Seeing the father-in-law and Greg crying, I felt Greg's heart was finally being healed. And when we shared the news of my pregnancy, he was genuinely happy. Actually, I've been thinking about something too. The story told by the father-in-law was shocking. He mentioned setting up a final meeting as soon as preparations were complete. And then we disbanded for the day. When we got home, Greg received a message from Allison. I haven't received the birthday celebration money yet. Since we couldn't cancel the meal, you need to add that to what you transfer. Seeing the message drained me, but Greg energetically replied to his phone screen. Like I'd send you anything. Idiot. It was clear he had finally moved on, and I felt proud of him. 2 weeks later, the father-in-law contacted us. And we were to visit Allison and her husband's condo. Their daughter was being looked after by a neighbor's mom friend. As soon as everyone gathered, the mother-in-law started questioning. So, what's this about Rachel's assistance? The father-in-law shared that work had decreased over the years. and he couldn't take on as much due to his physical condition. He had loans from financial institutions and had struggled to cover living expenses, which led him to ask for our help. You said we absolutely couldn't cut back on living expenses. But part of that was being sent to Allison. I trusted you to manage our finances, and I'm very disappointed. What? I thought about dipping into our savings for retirement to finish off the repayments. But then I found out you'd used it for Allison's condo down payment. The mother-in-law turned pale. The father-in-law had fully trusted her management as there had never been issues before. Indeed, there had been savings for retirement. But Allison insisted on buying the condo. So the mother-in-law used the savings without telling her husband. Because of that, we're broke. I had asked Greg and Rachel for help with our living expenses, not knowing it included a monthly allowance of $800 to Allison. I didn't realize things were that bad. How old do you think I am? I won't be able to work forever, you know? The mother-in-law had gotten used to seeing deposits in their account, probably taking it for granted, not realizing it was due to the father-in-law's hard work, not a gift from the heavens. Confronted with reality, the mother-in-law started trembling. I can't live with you anymore. I can't forgive you for favoring Allison over Greg and deciding to sell the house. Prepare yourself, you have no home to return to. Selling the house. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please forgive me. What will I do without you? You've always cared for Allison, right? Then from now on, rely on her. We'll discuss the future later. The mother-in-law began to apologize profusely, but the father-in-law silently shrugged off her clinging hands. Once the discussion with the father-in-law and mother-in-law settled, Justin quietly spoke up. Allison, what's this about the allowance? Allison twitched at his question. You said you wanted to work, right? You told me it was just a part-time job twice a week, didn't you? Now it was Allison's turn to pale. The mother-in-law, who had been crying, looked up to respond. What? It's 5 days a week. I've been looking after our granddaughter while you're at work. Because you said Justin's income wasn't enough and that we needed to send allowances. Shut up. Mom, just stay quiet. What are you saying? You're the one who lied about the allowance. If you hadn't lied, none of this would have happened. The mother, who had always acquiesced to everything Allison wanted, was now confronting her. Shut up. It's your fault Justin is upset. Take it back. If we get divorced, it's your fault. Quiet, you big liar. Their argument escalated into a shouting and grappling match, which Justin and the father-in-law had to break up. Justin forcefully seated an agitated Allison and laid out several photographs on the table. Allison gasped and widened her eyes in shock. After hearing from the father-in-law and feeling suspicious, I spent the last 2 weeks investigating you. I expected some wasteful spending, but I never imagined you were cheating too. Everyone gasped and leaned in to see the photos showing Allison clinging to another man. No, you've got it wrong. This is a misunderstanding. It seemed her part-time earnings, the money from her mother, and the allowance from my husband were all spent on shopping sprees and outings with her affair partner, who was an unemployed high school classmate she had reconnected with a year ago. No wonder there was never enough money. We're getting divorced. I'll take custody of our daughter. If you want to see her, you'll have to come to my parents' place. His family lived a 2-hour flight away, making frequent visits difficult without genuine effort. Justin was prepared to quit his job and move back home. No. I won't divorce. We just bought our condo. It was just a momentary lapse. Please, forgive me. We're a family, aren't we? No way. You destroyed our family yourself. You're a stranger to me now, better off divorced. You said it yourself. Allison's words at the birthday party resurfaced. She began to scream like a child whose demands were not met, her face turning bright red. What's going on? Why isn't everything going my way? Why? Why won't anyone listen to me? Her behavior, banging on the table and crying out, was eerily reminiscent of a small child, sending chills down my spine. The discussion was clearly over. As the father-in-law and we stood to leave, the mother-in-law and Allison hesitantly looked up. I felt compelled to say one last thing. I'm pregnant. Since the father-in-law is considering divorce, we will stop the $3,000 assistance next month. That's fine. I've got it figured out. What? Pregnant? $3,000? Allison, who had been crying just moments before, stood up with a hysterical voice. Despite what you think, Rachel earns $5,000 a month as a graphic designer. What? Why only you? I won't forgive this. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. You owe me compensation. Allison charged at me with a wild expression, emitting a bizarre scream. My husband, standing beside me, stepped in front of me, grabbed Allison's arm as she lunged, and forcefully pushed her aside. Carried by her momentum, Allison crashed into the wall and fell to the ground. Don't you dare lay a hand on my family. I will never be under your control again. Stay away from us. I believe those words from my husband were the ultimate retribution to Allison. Opening the door to the silent apartment, we finally stepped out of the world dominated by Allison. Afterward, the in-laws began considering separation with divorce in mind. By selling the family home, the father-in-law was able to pay off his debts and now resides in his office, finding solace in their separation. The mother-in-law was provided with an old apartment, where she receives a small allowance plus rent. Recently, she started working as a cleaning staff at a condominium, surely feeling the weight of her situation. Allison's marriage quickly ended in divorce. The condo, despite her mother's efforts, had to be sold due to Allison's inability to afford the mortgage. Justin gained custody of their daughter and moved back to the countryside, expressing his apologies to me. Left without options, Allison moved in with her mother, juggling multiple part-time jobs to pay compensation and child support, a situation that seemed to strain their relationship further. As my due date approaches, Greg and I are considering buying a home and possibly living with the father-in-law after the baby's birth, with plans for Greg to start his own business next year. We look forward to collaborating on work, household duties, and parenting.